What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Chris's Custom Collectibles, and today we are doing a revisiting custom collectible of the Hot Toys 1/6 scale Knightmare Batman figure from Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Can you believe it has been nearly 8 years since I did my video of the unboxing of this figure and then the custom collectible of this figure? I since sold that figure and the dynamic display that I made, the custom base. It now resides in Melbourne with my good friend Josh, who's been looking after it very well. But since then, there has been a lot of great custom head sculpts and custom coats for the Knightmare figure, as well as the other Batfleck figures with custom capes and stuff like that. So I wanted to revisit this figure and do the ultimate Knightmare Batman 1/6 scale figure with a brand new custom painted head sculpt, a full leather coat, because as you can see right here, this leather jacket is looking pretty tragic. I managed to get this piece at a bargain price on Facebook Marketplace, but look at this coat. It is starting to deteriorate to dust. Look at that. You should see the dust particles on my kitchen bench right now. So the idea is we are going to swap out this pleather trench coat. I'm either going to be using the 1/6 kit trench coat or the Daft Toys trench coat. I am going to be using the 1/6 kit scarf. Swap this one out. It does have a nice wire in it and it is a lot more screen accurate in terms of the texture. We also have a custom head sculpt that is going to be painted by a good friend of mine. Usually I would tackle the head sculpt in terms of painting it, but I want a pro that does it on the daily, that does it full time, and is really going to capture that true likeness of Batfleck in Knightmare form. We're also going to take this figure completely apart. We're going to darken certain elements of the wardrobe, like the pants, really dirty up the boots. Also, we're going to be doing some extra weathering on the torso and really matte it down. It's just too glossy and too clean for my liking at the moment. Again, I had so much fun back in 2016 with all the content I was doing for BVS, especially that Knightmare figure, and I really do miss it. I've seen some customs out there that just look so screen accurate, and I'm also going to be doing a brand new custom diorama. I'm going to be basing it off that one shot where Knightmare Batfleck comes out of the bunker into the apocalyptic Gotham. So with that being said, we're going to take this figure apart and start the customizing process. So with that being said, let's get to it. Alrighty, before we take him apart, just another look at how sad and sorry this pleather has gotten on the original trench coat. I've never seen something like this before, and I didn't know it was a common occurrence with the Knightmare Batman Hot Toys. So much like my Enter Bay T800 battle damage version with the leather pants and the leather jacket, this pleather has obviously been kept in the sun. Regardless of that, we are going to be swapping it out for a full leather coat replacement. That's either going to be the 1/6 kit or the Daft Toys coat. So let's take them apart. We're going to start with the gauntlets. They come off pretty easy, and let's just get this fucking coat off, and you'll see all the dust left behind on the bench. It's even like dusted onto the suit itself. Look at all that pleather dust there. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And yes, we are going to be oh my God, look at that. Take the scarf off. Now we're going to take the belt off. So I'm going to be utilizing the stock base belt strap, but I'm going to be taking the pieces off the nubs and stuff like that and make it a lot more flush so it's not as bulky off the pants. So let's take the drop holster off. Okay, that's off. Of course, take the cowl off. And again, we are going to be replacing this whole cowl with a really highly detailed cowl that is a lot more accurate. This guy's just falling apart, which is a lot more accurate to the BVS cowl and Affleck's mouth plate in general. Boots. What I love about these figures is how easy they come apart. And I'm also going to remove this button. It's held in by Velcro and a little snap, but we can just get rid of the snap because it still has the Velcro here. It just adds too much bulk, especially when the belt's on. So let's DAC this guy. And there we go. Naked Knightmare Batman. Bye! know it's time for some shitty commentary, just for something a little bit different. So by removing the snap on the front and the back, it just makes things a lot more flush, especially when we're going to be putting that utility belt on top. That way it's not going to bulk out and just look silly. Now, I've removed this part of the costume showcasing what we're dealing with in terms of the understructure. Now we're just going to get some little bits of self-adhering EVA foam and stick them on the sides because I want to make this more of a V-shaped torso. You really add bulk to those lats. It's a subtle thing, but it makes all the difference, especially once the coat's on. Now what you see here are just spare pieces of a sponge I had lying around, an unused sponge. Cut off those pieces and glue them onto the deltoids, and then you just grab some scissors and trim them down until you kind of have a nice curvature going on. And again, that is gonna give a bit more width to the shoulders. It will take a bit of futzing when you put the bodysuit back on. It's not gonna stress the textured fabric either, but as you can see right there, it gives it that nice V shape. Now to add the bullet holes, will accentuate the bullet holes, I'm just heating up a sculpting tool until it's glowing red, and then we're gonna go in very carefully and heat sculpt in those bullet holes. Now I've just got some talcum powder just to start to matte down and take that sheen away from the initial finish, because when you look at the screen used Knightmare costume, it is not glossy at all. So I've got a yellow ochre, a titanium white, and an ivory black oil color, and we're going to be using this all over for the torso, the pants, the drop holster, the belt, the boots, the gauntlets. So it's very subjective. You kind of just do it little bits at a time. You know, I've seen some people who do these custom figures go all out and really dusty weather up, like, you know, sandy, everything. And you could do that with the boot sections, with the spats, the gauntlets as well. Even though I did not video myself doing the gauntlets and the boots, the same applies to how we're doing it with the pants here. Just going over it until you reach that happy medium. Now the titanium white on the pants worked an absolute treat, but for the knee pads, we're actually just going to be using a student acrylic. Wait for that to dry, and then we're going to scour off the excess. And I'm pretty sure this is the same method I used, but it was an actual spray paint for my full-size cosplay, my full-size Knightmare cosplay back in the day, and I was really happy with how that turned out. And the yellow ochre as well on the pants, where there's the raised areas, the folds, the creases, all that. The yellow ochre just really made the details and the tailoring pop. Now you see here just going over the drop holster with the ivory black, nothing too drastic, just to kind of darken it a little bit. Now this is the same methodology I used for the previous Knightmare Batman hot toy back in 2016. We're going to remove those nubs on the back, again, just so there's less bulk, and then we utilize that same strap and glue the pieces back on so they're all flush, and we just gave it a nice little bit of dry brushing with the white oil color. Now for the base, I'm utilizing a shadow box from Bunnings. We're also going to be using some high dense hobby foam. This shit is so expensive. It's crazy how much high dense hobby foam is, but the idea is to emulate that bunker that Knightmare Batman comes out of when he sees the Omega sign. Now, I also have a balsa wood door, like, you know, the vault kind of door going on there with some balsa wood, some hobby balsa wood that I got from Bunnings. But we've got to stick all these pieces down just with a few hits of spray fix contact adhesive. Now this is purposefully scaled down just a little bit than the actual figure itself, and that is on purpose so it doesn't distract from the scale of the figure. You don't want it overpowering or overshadowing the figure, but we're going for that step up kind of look. You know, he's come out of the vault, he's come out of the cellar, he's come out of the bunker. We've got some 40 grit sandpaper, some 120 grit sandpaper, and a sculpting tool. And this is actually the most therapeutic stage of this build, is just sanding away, chipping away, especially when you grab the 40 grit and that sculpting tool. You just chip away at all that foam to make it look like rock, but there's obviously like a concrete slab on each step. So this thing has just been kit bash, you know, it's been blown away at the same time. It's just remnants of what was once a pristine bunker, which I love in the film. Now I'm just grabbing a rounded hobby file to carve in and sand in where the slabs would be, you know, where you'd see all the concrete and stuff like that, but also where the slabs have all been put together. So I'm just going to grab some PVA glue and a bit of talcum powder. I'm going to mix that up, and this is essentially to coat the entire piece and kind of seal it all up, I guess you could say, bring it all together, because some pieces do have, you know, seam lines where pieces have been glued down, and even though we use that contact adhesive, it doesn't exactly keep it stuck down forever, whereas by doing this, again, it kind of brings it all together and makes it one piece. Now, I grabbed some of those pieces that were discarded when I was chipping away at everything and mixing them back into that batch, and that is going to double as our rubble and kind of caking it up on the sides of the door there, like the actual structure of the door. And again, this is where you can get really creative. Now we've got that balsa wood vault door, and this is just utilizing pieces that I cut out to make sure it fits around the perimeter, and then glue that down, and then we have the actual base for the handle, and we've got those pieces right there. And again, this is just on the fly, kind of looking at reference, and then also for the handle itself, just a couple of very fine, thinner pieces of balsa wood. And that's what I love about balsa wood. It's easy to cut, it's easy to sand, and then it's also easy to paint. But the most trickiest part were these little studs, these little diamond studs I got from Spotlight, self-adhering, and they were gonna double as our bolts, the bolts that you'd see on like a vault or a bunker door, and that was so tricky, but so worth it. So we're gonna seal it all up with some spray putty. Now, I know this was going to bite just a little bit into the hobby foam, and I wanted that, and there's my squid shorts. I wanted it to bite just a little into the foam. If it were a regular polystyrene, it would eat it away like there was no tomorrow. We're also going to apply that primer on the door as well. So it's essentially all sealed up and ready to go. Now we're just going to grab some good old-fashioned black shoe polish, even though Kiwi is very hard to find these days. And this is going to be our base color wash. And again, as always with shoe polish, you dab away that excess, and what's left in the nooks, the crannies, and everything just really makes the details pop. And again, with that primer eating away at certain parts of the foam, it just makes it look like deteriorated concrete and chipped away concrete. Now this Duramax rust effect I've used so many times, I swear by it, but once it's still kicking, grab a brush and dab all around, and it gives this nice effect, like old rust, but the original finish is still trying to shine through. Now I've just got a neutral gray and a titanium white acrylic, and this is essentially to dry brush all over the rock areas, and you kind of build it up. You can lighten it, you can darken it all you want, but again, this just adds more detail, more depth to where things have been chipped away, where there's rock, where there's rubble, everything. And again, this is just more of a base color. We're going to go in with some oil colors a bit later and just do a bit of extra detailing. Now I'm just going to grab some more PVA glue, some brown student acrylic, and again some more talcum powder, mix that up, as well as some hobby sand, just some regular run-of-the-mill hobby sand. Mix it in until you get a nice pasty consistency, but obviously all tinted brown with that student acrylic. And we're really gonna cake that into the door. Like, you know, sand has just gotten into all the nooks and crannies, especially on the base of the diorama as well. And this is gonna help build up the appearance of sand kind of housing these concrete slabs, which is exactly what I wanted. So it's gonna grab a bit more shoe polish and add a soupçon of water. And I don't really have a ratio, I just eyeball it. And this is gonna be our wash for the door. And again, you can get really creative, it's subjective, you know, everyone has their own look, but I dabbed away the excess that was kind of where the middle sections are, just so it looked like it had soiled around all the perimeter of the door and all those slats, the bolts, everything, and combined with the sand, it worked perfectly. Now I'm just gonna grab some more PVA glue, some hobby glue, and this is gonna be to add more sand, more hobby sand all over, just to really cake it on. And once I was happy with that, and you're going to lose a lot in the process, I've just got some hobby hinges here to actually use proper hinges. So it's a fully working door, and screw that in. And I went in with some student acrylic, black student acrylic, and weathered that up. Now for the rust effect, this is brown student acrylic. You just put a little bit on and use your finger to smear it down like it's running rust and like it's got water damage and stuff like that. And it's just seen better days. And I've seen artists do this before on film sets, like life-size film sets, and just also got a little hobby chain, just like a little jeweler's chain, and glued that onto the door. So the chain adheres from the door to the inside of the bunker. Now we're just going to grab some more oil color, and this is essentially to really detail the concrete slabs and the sand as well, the dirt areas. We don't want it looking like clean sand. We want this looking almost scorched, like the earth has been scorched, the concrete has been scorched. And yes, you are going to lose a bit of sand in the process, but if anything, that's kind of a double whammy because you get rid of that excess sand that could get everywhere once you're finished with your piece. Now I'm just going to grab some matte Rust-Oleum, some black matte Rust-Oleum, and spray our base, and it houses perfectly the diorama. Now this is some very fine chicken wire that I'm using as barbed wire, and I'm just grabbing some more of that Duramax rust effect and dabbing that on. So I sprayed it out of the can into that paper plate and dabbing that on, and it gives the illusion of rusty barbed wire. Now I am utilizing the base that came with the figure. I'm ripping that logo off and just grabbing some hobby foam there and gluing it to make it like a little cupping section that will cup at the front of the actual diorama. All right, so what I have here is the replacement custom painted head sculpt. So I had the original one that I used on a custom collectible a couple of months ago and actually sold that as like a package deal. Now I found some Knightmare Batman custom castings, some 1/6 scale resin castings off eBay. I actually bought two. So this one I sent to my dear friend Jacob, who is an extremely talented 1/6 scale head sculpt painter. And the reason why I sent it to him, he was able to do it justice, whereas I definitely could not. I deal with like life-size busts and stuff like that, whereas you need people that paint these full-time. So I bought two castings. Here's one I had a crack at, you know, just as a placeholder whilst Jacob was painting the other version, and it's hard. It is hard to paint in 1/6, let alone doing, you know, flesh tones, stubble, and eyes. You guys know I'm not exactly the greatest at eyes, but also this is a good placeholder for the time being. So we're gonna unbox this. I have not seen it as of yet, and I'm really excited. Just buy the certificate of authenticity, and I highly recommend checking out Jacob's work. He does such incredible paint work on 1/6 scale figures. So Knightmare Batfleck, 1/1 scale, 1/6. Thanks, Chris. So here we go. Here is the head sculpt and the beautiful packaging as well. All right, so I have not seen this yet. Very excited. And oh, voila. Look at that. This is why I sent it to Jacob. He's done an incredible job. Let's see if we can zoom in. Look at that detail. The stubble, the eyes, even the subtle like splattering and dustiness of the cowl. He's absolutely nailed it, mate. Thank you so much. This will give life to the figure. You know, this will definitely give it some soul and really bring a level of accuracy to it that I definitely could not. Alrighty, so let's talk about the trench coat. So this is the original stock one from Hot Toys. As you can see, it is very worse for wear. You can literally start scratching the pleather off. So obviously we're not gonna go with this one. This here is from 1/6 kit from my good friend Justin over at Justin's Collection. It does have a wire in it, so you can pose it. It is a great option, but the one we're gonna go with for the actual final figure is the Hot Toys coat. It just looks the part in terms of the finish, replicating real leather, has a nice interior, and it just drapes perfectly. And the collar as well just drapes nicely around the head sculpt as well as the scarf that comes with it. So that is the one we are gonna go with, the Hot Toys 1/6 scale Knightmare Batman trench coat. So I guess all that's left to do is mount this on the figure and call it a day. So there is better late than never, and then there's this guy, guys. I'm so sorry it took me so long to finally finish this piece. It was obviously a matter of getting my ass into gear and sending the head sculpt off to Jacob, but it was well worth it for the wait and the end result. Like, I couldn't have done this head sculpt by myself. I had to have a professional that does this day in, day out as a profession to paint these 1/6 and quarter scale head sculpts, because essentially that head sculpt is the soul of this piece. I'm so happy with the modifications that we did to the torso, the brand new trench coat, the dynamic base. I just had to re-scratch that itch that I started in 2016 when I got that initial Hot Toys Knightmare Batman. So it's a nice little full circle moment. Hopefully, you guys, you get something out of this and then learn a thing or two and can not only use it on a Knightmare Batman figure, but other Hot Toys, other figures, other pieces. With that being said, wherever you are in the world, please have yourselves an absolute cracker of a day. I hope you're well. Hope you're happy. Be merry, be silly. And until next time, geeks and geekettes, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.